Wellness Wednesday is brought to you by North Durham Precision Learning Center, bringing 20 years of experience to Uxbridge. Wally Blacklock is an educator and co-owner of the North Durham Precision Learning Center, who work with children of all ages to allow them to gain academic and personal skills to help them to learn better and succeed in school. It is indeed time for Wellness Wednesday, and on the line right now is Wally along with Scott Campsall from Akami Kai Karate. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning, Dan.
So, Wally, learn me.
Oh, no.
Too late.
This is a longer interview now.
Yeah.
Well, where to start?
Yeah. I guess you were asking, Scott, how long do these segments go? Well, if I say that, it could be a couple of days. So I'm sure you don't have that kind of time. But tell us a little bit about what North Durham Precision Learning Center is about.
Well, like I said, we've brought 20 years of experience working with kids, and we've worked with kids on any part of the spectrum. So primarily what our focus is on are kids that have fallen behind. We have a very good process to help them catch up and then exceed their grade levels. And then we just found quite a few years ago that the same programs that we use have been very beneficial to children with ADD, ADHD, ASD, Down syndrome. It works for all kids.
I would think that with what is happening now because of the pandemic, that you're in a growth industry.
Well, yes. We're new to Uxbridge, so people are finding us, but I suspect that the tutoring industry will be a boom this year.
Now, obviously, we don't have a pandemic every single year, but how has teaching changed? I mean, have tools been tweaked? Is there a great difference from, say, 10 years ago in teaching kids how to develop their own tools?
Well, I think so. I think parents have become a lot more savvy and a lot more involved in their children's education, and they've been a lot more observant to how they're progressing in school. Even before we even knew about a pandemic or anything, a lot of resources were going online. A lot of teachers were using things like Google Classroom to post assignments and hand things in. I mean, things changed a lot since I was in school. A lot of their papers and everything are just handed in digitally.
How do you work with what is in the curriculum? Because obviously you don't want to throw too much at a student, especially if, as you say, they might be behind as far as education.
Well, I kind of work outside of the curriculum. I have a good idea of what the Ontario curriculum is. I've worked through huge changes in the system through different governments, but we kind of work kind of regardless of the curriculum. What we'll do is do an initial assessment, and we find gaps in the child's knowledge. And often once we start filling those gaps, they start to succeed. So even say a grade 9 student that may be struggling with linear equations or some of the more advanced math, they're understanding the concepts. They just haven't picked up the skills from before that they can finish a question right through to the end and get the right answer. So they're add, subtract, multiply, divide, basic facts. They're not committed to memory or long divisions, even working with integers, things like that. Some of the more basic skills, there's gaps. And once we start filling the gaps, they start to succeed in their regular curriculum.
We're joined by Wally Blacklock. He's an educator, co-owner of North Durham Precision Learning Center here on Wellness Wednesday. Do you have a question there, Scott?
Yeah, I was just wondering, you're talking about parental involvement, that they're more involved. Are you finding that they almost are, like with karate, we see sometimes where you get parents that maybe they were kids and they were taking classes and then they quit or they didn't go as far as they wanted. Do you find that some parents are trying to live vicariously through their kids, and that would be one reason why they would get a tutor? They want their kids to do better or than they did themselves, or are they more just trying to be encouraging?
I think parents may have seen places when they went to school where they struggled, and they don't want their children to experience the same kind of struggles. now sometimes that means that their expectations are maybe a little higher than what the child's capable of at the moment. But, I mean, we try to find that balance, and we try to be encouraging and let parents know that their kids are on track, that they're doing okay.
Now, you talked about it just briefly about the process, and they maybe understand the concept at school. There is definitely a different way of learning things, and especially when you're talking about math. It is about the process as much as it is that final answer. Are those kind of the gaps that you're talking about?
Yeah,
I know for the parents, definitely the parents are going, huh? A lot of times.
Well, definitely, and I mean they've changed a lot of terminology. The expectation and the speed that kids are expected to pick up these things is great. Often they'll go through one section of math, and once they're finished that, then they move on to the next section. I mean, I try to keep away from too lengthy of discussion on math because it becomes so controversial on how kids pick it up or what they should know. But we do find that once we hone those core skills, so add, subtract, multiplying, divide, fractions, integers, once they get a mastery of those things, numbers start to make better sense, and the new concepts that they're learning and taking up make much better sense.
What about the ways of learning? I remember when I used to work with our coaches at the Uxbridge Minor Hockey, and we talk about the different ways that kids learn. Some are verbal, some are tactile. Is it similar with just basic education?
Oh, for sure. I mean, every kid's got their own way that they're going to learn, and some kids learn better when they can see it. Some kids learn better when they're reading it. I mean, almost every classroom you can break up into 3 groups, and one group, they don't barely even need a teacher in the room. As long as the material's there, they can pick it up and they progress. And then you get a middle section of kids where they take the instruction, they do their practice, and they're picking up things fine. And then you get another third of the class where they need much more repetition. And maybe they need not to do something 10 or 20 times. They may need to do something 100 times. It doesn't mean that they're not going to pick it up. They just need a little more time.
Now, is that part of the gap that you will find that people come to you to try and fill? Because in a classroom, I mean, there's one teacher and there are so many kids there. And if you've got a group of people learning differently, that's got to be difficult in trying to touch base with each and every one of them.
Oh, for sure. And I know, I mean, I've spoken with many teachers, and I mean, they try to get a good grip on where each kid is at. But I mean, the classrooms, there's a lot of kids. So, I mean, keeping even a daily track of how they're doing and how they're picking things up is nearly impossible. Where I'm able to work one-on-one with the kids, I mean, I see where they are, and I get feedback every single time that I see them.
So as a parent, your heart's bleeding for your kid. You want to make sure that they're doing better in school and they're getting the best out of their education. What would be something you could recommend to a parent to be that support system for them? What are things that we could do as parents that would help their kid succeed the most?
Well, I think like regular check-ins with them and how they're feeling, kind of watch how they're doing with their homework. That's always like a good indicator. I mean, around 5 o'clock, if you open your front door, you can practically hear the screaming and yelling with the amount of homework. If it's taking your child, 2 hours or 3 hours to finish some work that should only take about 15 minutes, you can either see that they're struggling or they're becoming masters of task avoidance. And if they're doing it at home, chances are they're doing it at school too. So, I mean, these are all kind of things that parents can kind of watch and monitor and try to set some contingencies with their kids to get things done quickly, and to ask. If they're struggling, make sure that they ask. A lot of kids have a hard time voicing what they're struggling with.
Yeah, no, definitely. Now, if how does it work? So I bring my child. Do you do an evaluation? Do you bring work with you? And then what would a structure look like in using North Durham Precision Learning?
What we would do initially when we're meeting with them is we just do some generalized education testing, and we kind of see what they know and what they don't know. That kind of gives us a ballpark. But what we do is we take the child to a place where they're competent, where they can do a task, whether it's reading or math or whatever, very quickly, and we see how quickly they can do that, and then we move them forward. So where we give them a task that they can do nearly mindlessly, say adding and subtracting by one, or reading a text that is far simpler for them, we can get kind of a benchmark for where they can do a task without having to think about it too much, and then we move them forward, give them the new material, but we try to keep them at that same level. So if it's a reading speed, as the reading becomes more difficult, we look for them to be increasing how many words a minute they can read. With math, it'd be like, okay, well, how many correct and incorrect can they get in a minute when it's really easy? And we try to maintain that level as we increase the difficulty and they're learning new material.
So it's creating confidence as well. Within the child, in that, hey, I got this part, and then building from there.
Exactly. So, if it's reading it, we take them to a place where they can comfortably read aloud without making too many errors, and then we move them forward from there.
What are the ages that you deal with? So, like how old would you start, and where would be a point where you go, okay, you're a little bit out of our range as far as what we tutor?
Well, I've met kids as young as 3 that were already showing signs that they're ready to read. So, even 4 years old. So, we can take them from quite young, and I've even worked with some young adults that have had trouble with literacy and reading, where they kind of got lost in the mix many years before, and they're coming to me as adults because they want to read better.
How can they get a hold of you if they are interested?
Well, they can call us or email at northdurhamplc@gmail.com. Our number is 905-852-0527, and be happy to talk to anybody, give them a consult, and we're more than happy to provide advice for parents that may be struggling at home. Just a phone conversation, and I can try to point them in the right direction.
Wally, thanks for your time today.
Oh, no problem. Thank you.
Scott, thanks for your time.
Thank you, sir.
And I wasn't going to put him on the spot and try to educate me. So
no, I was almost worried I was going to have to answer some math questions. That's not exactly my strong suit.
Yeah, me too. Me too. He'd have to close up the shop, going, "Okay, that's it. I've got no more time. I'm tapped out." So.
I might contact Wally later. Actually.
Yeah.
Well, I got a lot more notes here to go through.
Well, you know what?
Do you want to know what I try to? I made one post once about math. And it creates so much controversy. I'm telling you.
Oh, yes.
I just put up some math sheets, and it took off, like people making comments, and then they had whole arguments all on their own. I didn't even participate.
No.
But that's a hot topic.
That's when you step away. Yeah. Wally, thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Scott. We'll talk to you next week.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye. That is Wellness Wednesday, and our brand new segment with Wally Blacklock, educator and co-owner of North Durham Precision Learning Center, right here in Uxbridge.